Hello, YouTubers and followers, and I hope soap opera fans, as we've been going through this summer series called Top 10 Crazy Soap Opera Plotlines. Dun-dun-dun-dun. And we're almost there. We have almost arrived at the top. We are one notch down from the top. Last week I did the second craziest soap opera plotline. This week we're going to do three quick soap opera plotlines that I think were very crazy, but you can't have four number ones, I don't think. But these are kind of a close behind number one as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to take a look at those this week. But first, to get you set up for the video this week, let's play our introduction music from good old classic General Hospital. Here we go. And yes, welcome to another week of Top 10 Crazy Soap Opera Plotlines. So this week is going to be a great one. This week is very, I mean, we're getting crazier by the week, aren't we? Last week an Alien. What is this week going to be all about? Well, let me just give you a sneak peek as we get into this week. Three different things I'm going to show you, okay? One of them is a man 18 years being cryogenically frozen. And he comes back to life again in 2001 after being frozen for 18 years. Yeah, crazy. Then I'm going to show you a storyline that created lots of controversy and was one of those head scratchers where you're like, are they actually doing this in daytime TV? A storyline that involved a demon possession. Crazy. And then the last one I'm going to show you is one that involves time travel. Okay, so those are the three I'm going to kind of give to you this week quickly and very quick synopsis and videos, okay? But what I want to do, first of all, is give you a little recap of where we're at, okay? Can I do that? I'm going to do a quick recap of where we're at before we get into these honorable mentions to number one. And next week, we're going to reveal the grand prize winner of Top 10 Crazy Soap Opera Plotlines. Okay, so number 10, we started way back when? Beginning of summer. 10, General Hospital, Robert faked his death. Very well staged. Everybody thought he had passed away. It looked very real on TV, but he had actually faked his death to capture a bad guy. And he fell down a set of steps on New Year's Eve and made it look like he was dead. Even the doctor was involved in that plot. So that was 10. Number 9, Robert Scorpio on General Hospital reunites with his first love and first wife, Anna Devane, back in the early 90s. Wasn't really too crazy, but it was just one of those cool storylines I liked. Number 8, we went to Mount Rushmore on General Hospital where there was a DVX plan to eliminate a whole bunch of WSB agents. And Robert and the team foiled that plan, and lots of lovely scenes shot at Mount Rushmore in that area. Pretty cool storyline. 7, murder mystery storyline. Looked like looked like one person was the murderer. It actually turned out to be a doctor on GH staff. Remember that one? The Lordsman murder mystery storyline. They eventually found out it was him. He fell to his death off a cliff. Number 6, Robert and Anna die on General Hospital in a boat explosion. With evil person Cesar Faison. Nope, they didn't. None of them actually died. It was all staged by the WSB to make it look like they had all died. And Anna showed up many years later, and Robert showed up like 15 years later, all alive and well. Number 5, Frisco Jones on General Hospital, not dead. He was in a he had been held captive in a Bulgarian prison for 2 years, came back, found out his wife had just married the person that was programmed to assassinate him to begin with. Crazy! Frisco Jones, back from the dead. Number 4, the Snowman. Robert Scorpio gets letters from a person calling himself the Snowman. It was evil person Grant Putnam, who 3 years before that, Robert Scorpio had put him into a mental institution. He made it look like he was well, escaped, wanted revenge on Robert. The Snowman storyline. Number 3, Mr. Big. Mr. Big was a mob story on General Hospital. This mysterious person was in charge of it, named Mr. Big. Who did Mr. Big turn out to be? A shocking daytime review at the time. None other than Police Chief Burt Ramsey. And Robert figured that one out. That was a pretty big shock. Number 3. Number 2, General Hospital is invaded by an alien from the planet Numina. We just looked at that last week. That was your second top 10 craziest soap opera plotline. So this week, here we go. Honorable mentions to 3. Okay, so let's not waste any time getting to them. I got a brief blurb to introduce them all, and then we're going to look at them together on videos, okay? So here we go. The first one I want to do, I'm kind of doing it in chronological order, okay? So the first one is the most recent. It's off General Hospital as well. And this involves a man being cryogenically frozen for 18 years. Yeah. How's that one? Have you ever heard of a person being cryogenically frozen for 18 years in real life? Not me. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. So here we go. I'm just going to give you the brief summary, okay? This involved a family called the Cassidines. They've been on General Hospital for like ever, it seems. And every time something bad goes happen, it seems to be this family behind it. They're not a very nice family. So let me just give you an introduction to them. Most of them are bad people, although there are a couple that have escaped that bad kind of that have escaped that bad evil stigma. But most of them are not very nice. Okay, so they had an island in toasty Greece, this family, the Cassidines. But for a family with an island in toasty Greece, the Cassidines sure loved their cold weather plots. For one, back in the early 80s, okay, this isn't the one I'm looking at, but it's in my description. The father of this family, Mikos, tried to completely freeze over Port Charles with a weather machine. Now, this plan was thwarted by Robert Scorpio and his good friend Luke Spencer. But in 2001, we see this guy come back to life named Stavros Cassidine. Stavros Cassidine is the son of Mikos Cassidine, who I just talked about, and Mikos' wife, Helena Cassidine. Mikos and Helena are both bad people. They're very bad. He has a son named Nicholas Cassidine, who apparently right now he's presumed dead. He probably isn't. He's going to show up alive at some point. But that was conceived through his time with Laura Spencer, and he actually kidnapped Laura Spencer and forced her to marry him. So they had this child, Nicholas Cassidine. Now, in 1993, he died after a fall down the stairs at General Hospital, and that was at the hands of Luke Spencer, who Luke is actually was at the time married to Laura, so Laura is Luke's wife. So 1983 GH, they had a big fight, Luke and Stavros, because Luke was a good guy, Stavros wasn't, and he pushed him down the steps. It was believed that he broke his neck at the bottom of the steps, but hey, he wasn't dead, because apparently this was revealed 18 years later. He was really cryogenically frozen by his evil mother, Helena. He was thawed out in 2001, 18 years later, so he and his bad mummy could engage in bioterrorism. While he was thawed, okay, this is when he came back to life, he tried to kill Luke Spencer. through using his son, who was brainwashed by the family, to inject him with a poison. Now, Luke didn't die. Luke's a pretty tough guy, but he was injected with something that kind of made him loopy. Stavros killed a person and tried to frame his brother Stefan for the murder, but ultimately he was killed. Well, actually, I'll get into that later. I'll get into that in the second part, but let's see the video of this, okay? So let's take a look at the video of him being resurrected again, and this is in the lab, okay? It's in a lab deep underground General Hospital. Helena Cassadine has blackmailed a doctor into helping her bring her son back to life, and he is right now in a chamber, okay, awaiting to wake up. So, this is an honorable mention, folks. Cryogenically frozen for 18 years and brought back to life in a secret lab under General Hospital. Let's take a look at this together, folks, okay?
Patience, my darling. Gather your strength. Oh, yes. Yes, we'll be together soon. Oh, you know, don't you? This is the day that you are reborn. Oh, you are late.
Where's Lucky?
How would I know?
Well, Luke is convinced you grabbed his son during the fire at the police station.
Luke holds me responsible for every little change in the weather.
Well, he has a point.
Search the laboratory if it'll make you feel any better. You won't find Lucky. I don't have him. The only child I am interested in is my own. And you, Doctor, have not yet honored your part of our agreement. It's time to free my son. He's ready.
Are you sure you want to revive this nightmare?
You will do as you are told. And if you fail...
Don't ever threaten me or my family again.
Well, it was nice to see Lucas at soccer practice yesterday. Nice to see him playing on a field instead of buried in one. Get him out now. Do something. He could be suffocating.
He's fine. Once the computer confirms the oxygen at 21% and the atmospheric pressure levels are the same on both sides of the glass, it will open automatically. And I've completed my part of the bargain, and there's nothing left for me to do here.
Tell anyone, and Lucas will suffer.
I gave you my word, and nobody would believe me anyway.
What's happening?
The sequence is complete.
Oh, one moment, my beloved. Dr. Stavros and I would be more comfortable if you would wait outside.
Well, I would be glad to, but I don't think that's a good idea. Even a patient under general anesthesia still has to come up slowly, gradually, in stages. And your son here has been, let's just call it asleep for 20 years. He needs constant monitoring.
You will wait outside the door, and if my son experiences any distress, I will call you. Right now, I want you out.
Have it your way. Maybe he'll die.
Oh, it's overwhelming. Having you back. Oh, my son. Beautiful, beautiful boy. I have you back with me at last. This is yours. You've been without it too long. Oh, forgive my tears. I don't usually resort to things, you know. But it's been so long without you. Oh, this is what I've worked for, what I've longed for so many years. And now you're really here. I brought you back. Oh, you must be so confused. I promise you, just as soon as the doctor finishes his examination, I will explain everything. And how it is that, despite my best efforts, your useless brother Stefan still walks the earth.
Well, given the circumstances, he's come through this remarkably well, physically.
Then that will be all, Doctor.
Well, believe me, I'm glad to be done with this godforsaken place. And we're through here, so don't ever call me again.
Well, I sincerely hope I won't have to. But if I need you, oh, my poor darling, you must be craving information. Why don't we start with, let's start with Nicholas. Nicholas, so often I have looked at your son and thought how proud you would be of him. Oh, Stavros, he's a remarkable young man. He's at a rather difficult age. He's asserting his independence, rejecting his title and his family, and keeping unsuitable company. But all of that is Stefan's fault, though he's been a terrible influence. Your son is in desperate need of his father. And now his father is back.
Okay, so I hope that came through all right for you. That was honorable mention number 3. Pretty creepy, eh? A guy that had been on ice literally for 18 years, and they decided to bring him back to life, and he wasn't very nice, obviously. He wasn't very nice back in the 80s, and he wasn't nice then either. Now, what happened with this storyline? Let me just give you the conclusion of this. Okay? So what happened was Luke Spencer found out he was alive, and eventually other people found out he was alive too. So near the end of the storyline, there was like about, I don't know, I think at least 9 characters underneath this really deep underground maze under the hospital, including Luke, and there's about to be something majorly bad that was going to happen. Helena wanted all these people to die, really. But what ends up happening is Luke and Stavros has another battle, just like they did in the 80s. And there's this bottomless pit in this giant maze. and Stavros happens to fall into it. He's pushed in by Luke, and then Stavros falls down this bottomless pit. So he's again killed by Luke Spencer, it seems, because he falls to his death down a bottomless pit. However, a decade later, Stavros is thawed again. Does he not get freezer burn, and he kidnaps Lulu Spencer, who is Luke and Laura's daughter, and freezes her because he's fallen in love with her. Cuckoo! Guy's a little nuts, isn't he? I think after he's been frozen so many times, I think it's kind of killed his brain cells. So that's what happened with Stavros. Now, Stavros apparently is dead again because he showed up again about 3 years ago, and he was shot and killed apparently to his death. But who knows with this family if he's actually dead. But that is honorable mention number 3. Stavros Cassadine, frozen for 18 years and brought back to life. Okay, let's take a look at the next one now as we go down our honorable mentions. And this one is going outside of General Hospital territory. This is going to go to a soap called Days of Our Lives. Days of Our Lives has done some crazy stuff in the past. And one of the most absurd, well, not absurd, but one of the most nuttiest storylines that they decided to do, and it was really, at the time, in daytime TV, this was 1994, it was looked upon as, are you nuts? Are you actually doing this on daytime TV? But they did. And this is what I'm talking about in 1994. On Days of Our Lives, Stefano DiMera, this dude named Stefano DiMera, who is probably the show's most consistent villain over the years, and, just a few of the crimes he committed. He stole babies, he mind-controlled people, he kidnapped people, he switched babies, he did a lot of bad stuff. He was actually the bad dude of Days of Our Lives. Well, back in 1994, he was obsessed with Dr. Marlena Evans, okay? He lusted after her, even though she would probably never willingly be with him. He lusted after her. He wanted to make her his queen of the night, as he was a masterful chess player. So what he did was he lusted after her, and he started drugging her night after night. He had made a secret passage to her room through another adjacent apartment. Crazy, eh? Looney Tunes! So he could have his wicked way with her. But unfortunately, because of this influence, this left her open to demonic possession. So, Marlena Evans became possessed by the devil. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty crazy, right? So what ended up happening was, at first they didn't know this because vandalism started to happen in their quiet little city. A drought came to happen because nothing would grow. There would be no rain. It would all dry up. It was just a terrible drought. Bee attacks became regular occurrences in Salem. In fact, this one guy was attacked by bees, and he was allergic to them, almost died. And also, what other things did the devil do in Marlena's body? He tried to burn the church down, burnt a Christmas tree, lied regularly, and once they found out that it was possessed by the devil, it kept it tied up. They kept Marlena tied up to a bed in her apartment so that they could kind of contain the devil. And they were going to perform an exorcism on Marlena. But in the process of doing that, Marlena hid the one priest's heart pills, causing him to have a heart attack. Also tried to get this character named Tony to kill John Black, who was at the time a priest, and tried to and in Marlena's body also tried to seduce him before he knew she was possessed by the devil. And all that was done because she wanted. John Black was a priest. He was trying to keep his holy vows, and that was going to be that's a no-no in priestland, to have an affair or to You sleep with somebody before you're married, right? She actually pushed Stefano off the balcony and almost killed him too. So what happened with this? This was a crazy storyline. Viewers became familiar with the sound of Marlena's eerie devil voice, the sight of her eyes growing green, not to mention her levitating and morphing into other characters, and on one occasion transformed right into a panther. So, this is crazy, folks. This is why we're up on honorable mentions, and it should be honorable mentions. So let's take a look at this one together quickly. A very quick video clip of Marlena possessed by the devil. And there's going to be two characters that will be in the room. Mike Horton, a doctor who at this time knows that she's possessed by the devil. But another person, Caroline Brady, who doesn't know this. And so Caroline is going to be duped here by the devil. Yeah, this was back in 1994 on Days of Our Lives. So crazy stuff. Let me just bring it up here for you. Okay, so here we go. Just bear with me as I bring it up. Okay?
And I have one too. It's probably around here somewhere. It must be a patient calling. Caroline, I have one too. It's
Okay, sorry about that. It's a little loud. I'm going to turn it down. This video clip's a little louder. Okay, so here we go. Marlena Evans, possessed by the devil on Days of Our Lives. This is honorable mention number 2 for crazy soap opera plotlines. Okay, so here we go, folks. Take a look at this one.
I have one too. It's probably around here somewhere. It must be a patient calling. Untie me. I'll call them back.
Oh, yes, of course. I have to do that. I'll call Abe. Did you hear that?
No, Caroline's maybe one of the attackers. Hurry up, still being armed and dangerous. No, I'm sure that's not it. Caroline, please don't do that.
Oh, it's Mike. He may be hurt.
If he's hurt, don't move him. Caroline, I'm a doctor. Untie me. I'll help him.
Mike may be hurt. I just don't want to leave him lying there.
Caroline, if Mike's hurt, it will hurt him more to move him. I'm a doctor. Untie me. Let me examine him.
Yes, of course.
Oh, there already. Oh, thank you. Now, come on, do this one.
I just want to check on him.
Okay. All right. I'll take care of it from here.
Mike, can you hear me? It's Carolyn.
Oh, Carolyn.
Oh, what are you doing? I came to see Marlena, but there was some break-in. In fact, they must have knocked you unconscious, and then they tied up Marlena.
Marlena? My God. Carol, did you let her go?
Oh, yes.
Where is she?
Oh,
I'm right here.
this is a dream. This is not happening.
I'm afraid it is happening, Caroline.
No, it can't be. It's not real. Look at her eyes. No, that's not Marlena. It's like
a demon.
Oh my God!
Solve the solve. Solve the solve. Solve the solve.
What's that she's saying?
I don't know. She's not speaking English.
What are we gonna do?
Well, you're gonna stay right here. I'll get her down.
No, be careful, Mike.
I will. Marlena? It's Mike. I'm gonna help you, okay? You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right.
Mike!
No, get out of here. Get out of here. Smoke it out.
No, I'm not gonna leave you're upstairs. How did you get here ahead of me?
Yes.
You are not Marlena. Who are you?
Oh, Caroline. You're about to find
Yeah, your TV guru Jason Banks back here, and that was a little scary, and I guess a little disturbing. That's daytime TV in 1994. Like, that is crazy stuff. Now, I must admit, I tuned into Days of Our Lives at that point. I wasn't an avid watcher of it at that point, but I flipped channels one day and I saw this. I'm like, what the heck is this? So I was intrigued by it and watched it. I must admit, Days of Our Lives did a very accurate, I thought they did a very accurate job of doing this storyline, as I'm kind of a spiritual person. I believe in God, and you know, I have, I go to church, and I'm not, so I also believe in the very reality of evil presence, too. So, based on what the Bible says, I thought that was a very good, accurate portrayal of what the devil is like. But yeah, it was pretty creepy. Now, let me get you to the rest of this storyline. Okay. So, did you see the eyes there? Yes. The eyes were growing green. The really creepy voice. That was what was happening regularly. Now, what happened in this storyline is that Marlena was finally freed from the devil thanks to an exorcism performed by John Black. Now, what happened was, after some time in Marlena's room on the bed, it appeared that Marlena had become too weak after all this trauma and had actually died, and that the devil had won. So everybody was sad. Oh my goodness, Marlena's died. This is terrible. John, on an impulse, went back to the morgue, who shockingly discovered Marlena still alive in the morgue and still possessed. The biggest trick of the devil yet. And this was a very epic scene in the morgue, because there was a battle between the two of them in the morgue, where with the help of an angel, John finally prevailed over the demon. John luckily remembered he'd been ordained as a priest. Longtime viewers may have thought the show had jumped the shark on this storyline, but the plotline brought about a spike in ratings, actually, because the ratings weren't very good for Days of Our Lives at this point. So this plotline really brought them up. So it was successful, but a very, very, very absurd storyline, to say the least. Okay, so let's bring us to the last one and our honorable mentions. This one involves time travel, folks. Okay, so let's go down here. This is One Life to Live that I'm going to right now, and it involves time travel. It was a risk to go into the science fiction territory that they often found themselves mired in One Life to Live. Thankfully, it worked for the soap for a good number of years. Now, in 1988, Clint Buchanan was shot in the head and he went blind as a result of this. To deal with his blindness, he went to spend time at his ranch in Arizona with his wife, Vicky. Now, later on, when he felt more comfortable being blind and doing things, he took a ride on his horse. He fell and was transported back to 1888, 100 years in the past, to a city called Buchanan City, where his eyesight miraculously returned and all the ancestors in the Old West had very familiar faces. Characters currently on the show at that time portrayed their 100-year-old in the past ancestors as well, including Clint's son Cord, who was Cody. His father Asa was his great-great-grandfather Buck Buchanan, and even later a look-alike of his wife showed up named Ginny. Now Clint was supposed to get Ginny, who was his wife's great-grandmother, by the way, matched up with a dude named Randolph Lord to ensure that the future stays in place. But Clint eventually gave up on trying to get back to 1988, and instead he fell in love with Ginny and was almost going to marry her himself. Rumor has it that the story was supposed to be left purposely vague, with Clint waking up back in the present and leaving the viewers to decide themselves whether he had actually time traveled. Instead, however, a writer's strike forced a rewrite of the storyline, which meant that Vicky found a way to travel back in time too, Clint's wife. So she got back in the past too, and she arrived just literally minutes before he was going to marry Ginny. So she traveled back in time to save Clint, and they both found a way to get back to 1988, making the story officially part of the One Life to Live history. Did you get all that? Isn't that crazy? A time travel storyline, okay? So let's take a look at this one together briefly. Okay, so this is when he's going to walk into Buchanan City and try to figure out what the heck is going on, because he realizes things aren't adding up here. There's something not really right at all. He was in the desert, and now all of a sudden he's back in this old West setting. So let's take a look at this together. Clint Buchanan on One Life to Live, going back 100 years in time on Top 10 Crazy Soap Opera Plotlines. Just give me a minute while I bring the video up here, okay? So bear with me. Doesn't seem to be working. Here we go.
Howdy, stranger.
Howdy, could you tell me just where I am? My horse took me a few miles back, and I've been walking for quite a spell.
You look some wore out. Here. Oh, much obliged. Oh, that's better. So just where am I? Buchanan City.
Yeah, but what is this place?
What do you mean? It's town. What'd you think of it?
Oh, there's no towns like this anymore.
Some must have touched you in the head. Go get yourself a shot of whiskey. That saloon up yonder. That'll bring you back to your senses.
What can we do for you, stranger?
I just came in off the desert. I need this drink of water.
Sure thing. There you go. Where are you from?
Valhalla. It's not far from here.
Valhalla? Never heard of it.
What do you mean you never heard of it? It's, it can't be 50 miles from here. Happy Horse Ranch?
stay up and carry on with my fine jail.
Oh, Blaze, you only stay up for one cup.
Well, that's true. True. Never quite sleepy when Buck's around, isn't that right? Well, honey, my name's Blaze, and this here's my saloon. And you are?
Clint, nice to meet you.
And you too. Gee, you look kind of all spiffed up, even though you're a little dirty, but my guess is Eastern. New York, maybe?
All right, I give up. I won't even try to guess. Just, what is this place?
Well, it's my bar, my saloon. I own it.
I know that. I know that. I mean, what is this town? An amusement park with a Wild West theme? Or,
Amusement park?
yeah.
Well, you don't see any of us now looking too amused, do you, Campbell?
Sure. Movie set. It's a movie set.
Carson, how many rounds have you served this hombre?
Ma'am, I've been drinking straight water. And unless I miss my guess, all these bottles are just filled with colored water, too.
Oh, excuse me, boys. Could I still be dreaming? And this guy's part of my dream, huh?
Yeah, He said he was in the desert. Maybe his brain turned to cactus juice. I'm kind of losing my sense of humor here. Just tell me where the phone is. Telephone?
But we ain't got telephones in these parts, mister. We got a telegraph office now down the street.
You don't have telephones? Well, if you don't have telephones... No, it can't mean that.
You know, mister, maybe you ought to just explain what the problem is.
The problem is well, there isn't any problem. There's just a little bit of a misunderstanding here. So just answer me one question, straight from the shoulder.
Sure.
What's the date?
Well, it's February something. Carson, what's the exact day?
Not the day. Date. What year is it?
You've been having a hangover since New Year's Eve, cowboy. It's 1888.
1888?
1888. Mr. Clint, I believe you said it was? Honey, you're either drunk, loco, or very badly ailing. Now, why don't you just catch Doc Carey, who's just around the corner?
Where's the telegraph office?
In the general store. Will Simmons runs both.
Thank you for your hospitality.
Sure thing, cowboy. Take care now.
Okay, sorry. It's your TV guru, Jason Banks, back here. So there's another crazy one for you. And God rest his soul, that man, actually. The man that played Clint at that point and on One Life to Live. His name was Clint Ritchie, and he passed away a few years ago at the age of 70, I believe. So he's no longer with us. But that was Clint Buchanan. And he is trying to put out of it, and he's like, how on earth did he go back to 1888? And you can see that he asked for a telephone. They said they didn't exist then. Obviously, they didn't. And it's kind of funny as he's trying to figure this out and eventually comes to terms with the fact that he's time traveled back 100 years in time. Interesting that he goes to the telegram office, too, and he asked to send a telegram to where his ranch is. His city doesn't exist. And then the city where he's originally from, Nanview, in Pennsylvania, he tries to send a telegram there, too. But again, the city doesn't exist. So this was quite a storyline. It went on, I don't know, 3-4 months or something like that before Vicky found a way to get back to the past. And the two of them returned back to 1988, where they woke up and they still weren't even sure if it was a dream or if it was real, but it would appear like it was real because they had articles from their ancestors with them when they woke up. So, anyway, that was a crazy one too. So there you go. 3 honorable mentions to the top one we're going to look at next week. A man cryogenically frozen for 18 years. A person possessed by the devil on Days of Our Lives. And then One Life to Live, a man that traveled back 100 years in time to the old Wild West. That was actually a pretty good storyline, although crazy, but it was pretty well done too. So that is our honorable mentions in this week's Top 10 Crazy Soap Opera Plotlines. Dun-dun-dun-dun. So next week, please join me again as I get to the top one of all time as far as I'm concerned, and it's a doozy. We're going to get to that next week, but until then, stay sane and take care. This is your TV guru, Jason Banks, signing off.